What if I told you that you could grow vegetables without constantly feeding them, without expensive fertilizers, and in some cases, without even traditional soil? And yet, your plants can still produce more tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers than before. It sounds impossible, but it's not. There are gardening methods that actually build their own soil, recycle nutrients, and keep feeding your plants automatically, almost like a living system working underground. And the best part? Some of these methods are so simple that even older gardeners, or anyone tired of heavy farm work, can still use them with very little effort. In this video, I'm going to show you 5 powerful self-feeding gardening methods that help your garden produce more food with less work. And I won't stop there, because if you stay until the end, I'll also reveal 2 bonus methods that many experienced gardeners quietly use but rarely talk about. One of them is so simple, it looks almost too easy to work. Now, don't rush this video, because the order of these methods matters. We're starting with simple, practical systems, and ending with methods that actually create self-sustaining soil systems that can feed plants for years. And the number 1 method uses something most people throw away every single day. So let's start with a method that completely changes how you prepare garden soil and removes one of the hardest parts of gardening forever: weeds and digging. Method number 5. Sheet mulching. Stop fighting the soil. Let's start with something every gardener eventually struggles with: weeds, hard soil, constant digging, and the feeling that no matter how much you work the ground, it still doesn't give back enough. But what if I told you there is a method that does the opposite? Instead of fighting the soil, you let the soil rebuild itself. That is the idea behind sheet mulching. And this is one of the best methods for older gardeners because it removes the hardest part of gardening: digging. Sheet mulching is simply building soil from the top down. Instead of tilling the ground, you layer organic materials directly on top of it, and nature does the rest. Over time, worms, moisture, and microbes break everything down into rich, fertile soil. First, you start with a base layer. 1. Smother the ground. Use cardboard or newspaper. Make sure there are no gaps for weeds to push through. Use plain cardboard or newspaper with safe, non-toxic inks. Avoid glossy or heavily colored printed materials. 2. Add a moisture layer. Soak the cardboard or newspaper with water. This helps it start breaking down immediately and keeps it in place. 3. Build your food layers. Now you start stacking organic matter: dry leaves, brown material; grass clippings, green material; kitchen scraps, optional but powerful; compost if available; straw or dry mulch on top. Think of it like building a natural lasagna for your soil. While you are resting, the real work begins below the surface. Earthworms pull organic matter downward. Microorganisms break it into nutrients. Soil becomes softer over time. Weeds are suffocated naturally. No tilling, no back pain, no expensive fertilizers. Just slow, natural soil creation. This method works especially well for tomatoes, peppers, leafy greens, carrots, beans, but it is especially powerful for long-term garden beds, not quick harvest crops. Common mistakes to avoid. This is where many beginners get it wrong. Making layers too thin: weeds come back. Using plastic instead of cardboard blocks soil life. Forgetting water slows decomposition. Using treated or shiny printed paper: risk of toxins. Why older gardeners love this method? Because for many gardeners, the hardest part is not planting. It is the physical work. Sheet mulching removes digging, tilling, constant weeding, and replaces it with something much easier: layer, water, wait, harvest. Now, sheet mulching is powerful, but it still takes time to build soil. What if I told you there is a method where you don't even need proper soil at all? A method where plants grow in something most people would normally throw away and still produce impressive harvests. Let's talk about that next. Method number 4, straw bale gardening. So now you've seen how sheet mulching slowly turns waste materials into rich soil over time. But what if you don't even want to wait for soil to fully develop? What if you could start growing vegetables almost immediately, using something most people consider farm waste? That's where this next method comes in. Method number 4, straw bale gardening. Straw bale gardening is one of the most underrated systems for growing food with very little physical effort. And for older gardeners, this method is especially powerful because it removes 2 major problems: hard digging, poor soil quality. Instead of working the ground, You grow directly inside the straw. How it works. A straw bale is not just a container. Over time, it becomes a living compost system. As it breaks down, it holds moisture like a sponge. It slowly releases nutrients. It becomes softer and richer every week. So your plants are not just sitting on straw. They are actually growing inside a slowly decomposing food source. Step-by-step setup. 1. Choose your straw bale. Use wheat straw or similar natural straw. Avoid hay if possible, too many weed seeds. 2. Position the bale. Place it where it will receive 6 to 8 hours of sunlight. Flat side up for planting stability. 3. Conditioning phase, very important. For about 10 to 14 days. Water the bale daily. Add a nitrogen source, like compost tea or diluted manure. This starts decomposition inside the bale. For planting stage, once the inside warms and softens, create small holes in the bale. Add compost into each hole. Plant seedlings like tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, squash. Straw bale gardening works because roots grow through soft, decomposing straw. Water stays longer in the system. Nutrients are released gradually. Weeds are almost completely eliminated. And most importantly, you are not fighting soil conditions anymore. You are creating your own growing environment anywhere you want. Many people fail with this method because they skip the conditioning phase. They don't water enough at the beginning. They use straw that is already decomposing too early. They overcrowd plants. This is one of the easiest ways to keep gardening even with knee pain, back problems, weak soil conditions, limited energy, because everything happens at waist level, and there is almost no digging required. Before we move into the top 3 methods, if you're enjoying this kind of simple, practical gardening knowledge, make sure you subscribe to Grow Food Smarter. Every week, we share methods that help you grow more food with less effort, especially for gardeners who want better results without heavy labor. And now things are about to get more interesting, because the next method turns ordinary yard waste into a garden system that actually improves over time. Let's move into something more powerful, a method where you don't just grow plants. You actually build a garden bed that gets better every single year. So far, you've seen how straw bales can slowly turn into living soil. But what if we go even deeper? What if instead of just using decomposing straw, we build a garden bed that uses wood, branches, and organic matter to feed plants for years, sometimes even decades? That is where this next method comes in. And this is one of the most powerful long-term gardening systems ever developed. Method number 3, Hugelkultur. Hugelkultur is a German gardening technique that means mound culture. But in simple terms, it is a raised garden bed built from rotting wood and organic matter. And over time, that wood slowly becomes a natural fertilizer system underground. How it works. Instead of removing branches, logs, and yard waste, you bury them. Then you build your garden on top of them. As the wood breaks down, it stores moisture like a sponge. It releases nutrients slowly. It feeds soil organisms. It improves soil structure year after year. Think of it as a slow-release garden battery under the soil. Step-by-step construction. 1. Choose the base area. Pick a permanent garden location. Because Hugelkultur beds are not temporary, they are long-term systems. 2. Add woody materials. Place at the bottom logs, branches, twigs, old wood pieces. Avoid treated wood or chemically processed timber. 3. Add organic layers. On top of the wood, leaves, grass clippings, compost, kitchen scraps. This starts the decomposition process. 4. Cover with soil. Finally, add a layer of soil on top. This becomes your planting surface. Why Hugelkultur is powerful. This system works because wood acts like a water reservoir. Microorganisms break materials down slowly. Nutrients are released over time. Soil becomes richer every season. And the most interesting part? The bed often becomes more fertile after the first year, not less. Common mistakes. Many gardeners struggle because they use only small sticks, no long-term structure. They don't build high enough beds. They skip moisture during setup. They expect instant results. Hugelkultur is not fast food gardening. It is long-term soil engineering. Why older gardeners love this method? Because Hugelkultur means less watering, less fertilizing, less digging every season, more passive gardening. Once built, it becomes a low-effort system that works in the background. So now you've seen how hugelkultur builds a long-term soil system. But what if I told you that sometimes you don't even need to change the soil at all? You can change the way you plant a single crop and completely transform its productivity. And that crop is one of the most important vegetables in home gardening. The tomato. Method number 2. Horizontal tomato planting. Most people plant tomatoes straight up, but that's actually not how tomatoes are designed to grow. Tomatoes are special because their stems can grow roots wherever they touch soil. So when you plant them horizontally, you are not just planting one stem. You are creating an entire underground root network. Step-by-step method. 1. Prepare the seedling. Remove the lower leaves, leaving only the top growth. This prevents rot when buried. 2. Dig a shallow trench. Instead of a deep hole, dig a long, shallow trench. Lay the plant sideways inside it. 3. Bury the stem. Cover most of the stem with soil, leaving only the top part exposed. As it grows, it will correct itself and grow upward. But underground, something powerful is happening. What is happening underground? New roots are forming along the buried stem. This means more nutrient absorption points, stronger anchoring system, better drought resistance, faster growth, more fruit production. In simple terms, you are turning one weak root system into a multi-root network plant. The kitchen spice trick, simple but powerful. Some gardeners also add a light sprinkle of cinnamon near the planting area, because cinnamon may help reduce fungal growth around young stems and improve early survival conditions. It is not fertilizer, it is a protective support. Common mistakes: burying leaves instead of removing them, planting too deep in heavy soil, overwatering immediately after planting, using weak seedlings. This is one of the most efficient ways to grow tomatoes because it costs nothing extra. It increases root mass naturally. It improves nutrient uptake. It works in almost any soil. And most importantly, it produces stronger plants without extra fertilizer. Now everything so far has been about improving soil or improving planting methods. But the number one method is completely different, because it doesn't just feed your plants occasionally. It creates a system that feeds them continuously using living organisms working underground 24/7. And once you see it, you'll understand why many gardeners quietly rely on it every season. So far, you've seen how we can improve soil, build long-term beds, and even increase root systems just by changing how we plant tomatoes. But all of those methods still rely on one thing. You're still doing the feeding work. What if you didn't have to? What if your garden had a system that quietly produced fertilizer every single day, without you buying anything, and without constant effort? That is where this final method comes in. And this is the closest thing to a self-feeding garden system you can build at home. Method number 1. Buried worm tower, PVC system. A worm tower is exactly what it sounds like. A vertical feeding station buried inside your garden bed that attracts worms directly to your plants. Think of it as a restaurant for worms, built right inside your garden soil. And those worms become your unpaid soil workers. To build a worm tower, you need PVC pipe, 4 to 6 inches wide, drill to make holes, a cover or lid, kitchen scraps, optional, bucket instead of PVC, small stones for base stability. Step-by-step construction. 1. Drill holes. Make small holes along the lower 2/3 of the pipe. These holes allow worms to enter and exit freely. 2. Bury the pipe. Place the pipe vertically into the garden soil. Leave only a few inches above ground. 3. Add food. Now you start feeding the system. Vegetable scraps, fruit peels, coffee grounds, crushed eggshells. 4. Cover it. Cover the top too. Prevent pests. Reduce odor. Keep moisture balanced. What happens next is the magic. Once active, worms enter through the holes. They consume the organic waste. They produce nutrient-rich castings. These castings spread into surrounding soil. So instead of you applying fertilizer, the worms do it for you. Why this method is so powerful? This system works because it continuously recycles kitchen waste. It feeds plants directly at root level. It improves soil structure over time. It reduces the need for external fertilizers. And unlike compost piles, this system works exactly where your plants are growing. Common mistakes: adding meat or oily food attracts pests, not burying deep enough, letting it dry out, overfeeding too quickly. Why older gardeners love this system? This method is perfect for low-effort gardening because no turning compost, no carrying fertilizer, no constant soil mixing, very low maintenance after setup. You simply add scraps, and nature does the rest. Now, everything we've seen so far has been powerful, but there are still two more bonus methods that many gardeners quietly use to reduce effort even further. And the first one is so simple, most people ignore it completely, even though it works incredibly well in home gardens. So now you've seen a system that uses worms to continuously recycle kitchen waste directly in your garden. But there is an even simpler idea that many experienced gardeners quietly use. It doesn't require PVC pipes. It doesn't require special materials. And yet it can slowly feed your soil in the most natural way possible. Bonus method number 1. Buried compost pit, underground feeding system. This is one of the oldest gardening methods in the world, but many people overlook it today. Instead of making a compost heap somewhere in your garden, you bring the compost directly to the plant roots. How it works: you simply dig a hole or trench between your plants and fill it with organic waste. Over time, it breaks down slowly underground and feeds nearby roots. Step-by-step method. 1. Dig a hole or trench. It doesn't need to be deep, just enough to hold organic materials. 2. Add organic matter. You can add vegetable scraps, banana peels, coffee grounds, dry leaves, small garden waste. 3. Cover it with soil. Close it completely so there is no smell or pest attraction. What happens underground? Once buried, microbes break everything down. Nutrients slowly release into soil. Nearby plants absorb the nutrients. Soil becomes richer over time. It is like placing a slow-release fertilizer system directly under your garden. Common mistakes: adding meat or oily food, digging too shallow, placing too close to seeds or young roots. This method is perfect because no heavy lifting, no compost turning, no special tools, very low effort. You simply bury waste, and nature handles the rest. Bonus method number 2. Clay pot irrigation, OLLA system. Now this final method is something truly special. It has been used for thousands of years, and it may be one of the most efficient watering systems ever created. The clay pot irrigation system uses unglazed clay pots buried in the soil. These pots slowly release water directly to plant roots. 1. Bury an unglazed clay pot. Leave only the top opening exposed. 2. Fill it with water. You can also mix in diluted compost tea if available. 3. Cover the top. This prevents evaporation and keeps insects out. Why it works so well? Because clay is porous. Water slowly seeps into the soil. Plants absorb moisture only when needed. Less water is wasted. Roots grow toward the pot naturally. The result: you get less watering, healthier root systems, better drought resistance, more consistent growth. So when you look at all these methods together, something becomes very clear. Gardening doesn't have to be about constant feeding, constant digging, or constant struggle. In fact, the best gardens are not the ones that work the hardest. They are the ones that let nature do most of the work. If you watch this far, you are exactly the kind of gardener we created Grow Food Smarter for. So tell me in the comments, which of these self-feeding methods would you try first? And if you want more practical gardening systems that help you grow more food with less effort, make sure you like this video, subscribe to Grow Food Smarter, turn on notifications, because in the next video, we'll go even deeper into simple ways to turn your garden into a low-effort food system that works almost on autopilot.